I'd just like to commend initially Minister Fleming and Minister Troy for the work that they have done. I understand, listening to other people here this afternoon, that the pace of change might be a bit arduous at times and a bit slow, but to be fair, I don't think you or Minister Troy can be accused of inaction on this, and I think that you're to be commended for the action plan for insurance that you did undertake. And I believe that over 80% of the recommendations contained in that report are implemented at this stage, which is a good start. And I would urge just for the full completion of that as quickly as possible. And obviously, look, many people get frustrated, and in my private discussions with yourself, Minister, over the years, I too myself would have been frustrated at the price of motor insurance and house insurance in particular. But even I have to concede that in the last year in particular, premiums have reduced slightly, and I think that there was a survey done where I believe that on average motor insurance premiums are down by 10%, and that is reflected even in what I have found in my own insurance renewal premiums. Secondly, I think as well the actions in relation to the new personal injuries guidelines and the claims that I think are down by about 40% according to the Personal Injuries Assessment Board. And I think that, again, that the awards for minor damages or general damages for minor injuries are down by about 47%. So again, there's clearly activity there. Obviously, what has been said here by other speakers, I would concur with that. This needs to be passed on now on the industry side of things at a greater pace. Thirdly, I'd just like to bring up the issue of competition. And again, it's something that in Ireland there's a distinct lack of competition, not just in banking, but also in the insurance sector, and that's obviously having a knock-on effect in terms of overall pricing and overall price of premiums. So again, I understand that you're chairing a committee in encouraging new insurance companies to Ireland, and I think that you've tasked the IDA specifically to go out abroad and try and source new competitors into the market. If maybe in your summation you might be able to give us a couple of words on how that task is going in terms of the IDA attracting in new companies. Also, I'd just like to mention, the upcoming legislation on the Personal Injuries Resolution Board Bill, and I know that work on this is ongoing, but I do believe, that I think Deputy Cathal Crowe there mentioned it a while ago, there's a lot of spurious claims and dubious claims. I think we need to, have a hardline approach to and adopt a much more stringent policy in terms of legislation and how we deal with it. Again, I'm encouraged to see movement on the price walking or the penalty for customers that I suppose that have demonstrated their loyalty to insurance companies over the year. And again, I understand that Ireland is going to be the first country in the European Union to do away with that practice, and that's also to be welcomed. And again, hopefully we will see that felt in consumers' pockets sooner rather than later. And again, something that was touched on previously, amendments to the Occupiers Liability Act and the rebalancing of the duty of care. It's something that has gone on, for an eternity. And again, it's great to see that you are active in this sphere. And again, I'm hoping that, when we say we're rebalancing the duty of care, I hope that the onus will firmly fall on, be it the trespasser or be it the person who's utilising somebody else's land rather than the landowner themselves. I'd also just give one mention to the Insurance Miscellaneous Provisions Bill, which you're hoping will enhance transparency around the practice of insurers deducting state supports from insurance claim settlements. And this is something that really, it stuck in my craw during the pandemic when we saw the practice from some insurers was to take advantage of the fact that the state had subsidised businesses during the pandemic when businesses needed it most. But it was, abhorrent to see that practice where insurers were then deducting from the settlement. And I do believe that, that kind of action more than anything shows, what you're dealing with in this sector at times. And as I said, in the middle of a pandemic, it did really stick in my craw specifically, but I know that it did irk many other people as well. And I do welcome work on that Insurance Miscellaneous Provisions Bill. I'd just like to mention in relation to home insurance and flooding insurance as well, specifically in areas where the OPW have implemented successful schemes. I do believe that there now action needs to be taken in terms of the protections that we can give to people, many of whom have been flooded, numerous occasions in their lifetimes. But with one claim, they're often dismissed from getting subsequent policy to insure their homes. And even if they are given the right to access to house insurance, it's all often at exorbitant prices. And I do believe we need to look firmly at areas where OPW schemes have been delivered and where it's clearly demonstrable that the OPW scheme might work. Then I really do think we need to be able to be there to help people in terms of reducing home insurance premiums in flood risk areas. I'd just like to mention, and I'd like to thank you as well, a number of weeks ago you met a group of people from the children's entertainment industry with myself, and again, it's probably, for many business people in that sector, be it bouncy castles or play zones for children or whatever the case may be, it's their single greatest expense, and I know that there's been difficulty in sourcing reasonable premiums for insurance over the last few years, and I know that many businesses are bundling together and trying to get communal policies, and that is helping somewhat, but realistically we do need I think that needs to be on your radar in terms of what you tackle next. And finally, just a mention in relation to the flooding again and subsidence. There's issues of outdated maps and historical legacies going back that I do believe that need to be reviewed periodically. Flood insurance often is based on areas that might have flooded in over 100 years, but because they're coloured or a specific way on a map, despite having no recent history of flooding, it still carries over. And I believe that being practical, I think we need to review that periodically to give people a fair chance of getting reasonable quotes for their home insurance and so on. So look, Minister, I do actually commend you for the work that you've done. Progress is slow up here, we know that, but in general I think yourself and as I said, Deputy Troy have proved to be very active in this, and I'm hoping that it will be passed on to consumers into the future. Come on, good.